Hey there! This video is not really a review of Forza, more so than it is just a compilation of all the issues that I feel like are currently affecting the series, and, if they should continue, will lead to a significant decline in the player base of this game's future. A lot of these issues are based on what seems to be laziness from the developers' behalf, refusing to make new car scans or models even when some of these models are literal decades old, and ignoring player input when it demands effort put into this game that isn't immediately paid off by a DLC pack or a sponsorship. A dev team that actually cares about their game certainly does not pull this kind of behavior, and it's clear to me that Playground Games sees themselves as untouchable, despite the fact that they have very real and very threatening competition, and competition that is only getting bolder. My name is Mirza, and today I'm going to talk about all the many issues with Forza Horizon 5. Before the video actually begins, like I said at the beginning, I would like to clarify for any naysayers that might go into the comments that these issues do also apply to Forza Motorsport 8 as well. This is very much not an exclusively Forza Horizon 5 issue video, despite how much I will be talking about it, as the majority of these issues are across the entire franchise. But first, let's talk about the most obvious thing that comes to mind when talking about Forza: the map. And we're going to talk about it because it is painfully and overwhelmingly bland. In my opinion, with no disrespect to the Mexican people, choosing Mexico as the next map to follow up Forza Horizon 4's seasonal diversity was a terrible choice because this map has only two environments: desert and forest. And no, Playground Games, I don't care if you put out a Steam news article telling us how many supposed biomes there are, there's clearly only two. I've seen quite a lot of people that, when addressing the complaints about Forza Horizon 5's map being generic and boring, bring up Horizon 4's map as a counter-argument, claiming that the map only has forests and a lake. And now, while I do agree with this statement to some degree, that Scotland's representation in Horizon 4 is a bit underwhelming, especially in the summer season, winter and autumn by far and away blow this assumption of genericness out of the water. The point of having a generic map like Britain is because it breaks that genericness with the seasons. That's why previous maps like Italy, Colorado, or Australia had so much diversity to them and were so massive in comparison. If you want me to believe that having a bit of snow on top of the volcano for a week is somehow better than drag racing across a frozen lake or the beautiful golden trees of Britain, you should love yourself now. Now granted, there are certainly more ways to improve this map even if it was still Mexico. I think the addition of having a modern city, something like Mexico City, ironically enough, along one of the coasts in vein to Surfer's Paradise would have been a nice touch. Having only a classical Mexican city as well as classical Mexican communities around the map really gets boring after you see the first one or after your first race through the city when you're trying to set up the street racing festival. Additionally, I would have changed up the center of the map by adding hilly dirt roads that serve between and under the highways to help break up the flatness of the center of the map. And finally, I would have changed the winter season to actually cover the entire map in snow. Because contrary to Playground Games' belief, Mexico does in fact get snow sometimes, and not just on the peaks of a volcano that only erupts once in a cutscene and never again. You might have noticed when I was rambling there that I mentioned how flat the center of the map is. And this is clear to anyone that's played the game for some period of time. The map has an extreme flatness to it in the direct center, where it really feels like there was something meant to be there that was scrapped late in the development. Why is it so flat, you might ask? Now, I want to state that everything I'm about to say is coincidental, and I am not implying that Playground Games inherently designed their map around an already dying game mode. Don't sue me. Yeah, they designed this for the Eliminator. Like, it's really not that hard to see that the entire center of the map was designed for the Eliminator. There's nothing too vertically challenging here. All the cliffs and canyons and high peaks and all the other challenging stuff are all pushed out to the edges of the map, leaving an extremely flat and extremely drivable center. Could I just be going schizophrenic about this because Mexico has a very flat topography in real life as well, or did they actually want to push the Eliminator more because of Fortnite's success? The addition of winning a round being an achievement in Horizon 5 where it was never won in Horizon 4, despite newer modes and Forzathons getting new achievements, seems to indicate just perhaps this is what they wanted. Realistically though, I would still much rather have gone with a different and better location. I'm sorry, but Mexico just is not a place of car culture when there's so many other better and unused picks that Playground could have used. Each and every one of Horizon's previous locations have taken place in countries of significant car history or culture, and Mexico sticks out like a sore thumb. You could have gone with Germany, you could have gone with South America, you could have gone with Sweden, or, as basic as it is, you could have gone with Japan. I know how generic it is to go, Horizon 5 should have been Japan. But that's just the truth. The game should have been set in Japan. People have been asking for this ever since Horizon 3 and before, and it makes so much more sense both in car culture wise and environmentally than Mexico as a follow-up to Britain. Alas, perhaps Horizon 6 can fix this flaw, if it ever exists. However, no amount of map fixes can fix one of the longest standing and most prominent issues with Forza, their car models. Good God, the inconsistency of these models is amazing, and not in a good way, certainly not. You will have some models that are brand new and stand pretty good even though they're not scans, and then you'll have ghouls scraped from the Xbox Classic and dragged to the modern age. A very good and quick way to tell is going into Forza Vista on any of these older cars, making sure they are stock, of course, and pressing the explode button. If the trunk, doors, and hood open, congratulations, you have a more detailed, hopefully, model. If only the doors open, you're dealing with a pre-Horizon 3 relic. Let's go over a few examples of these. Here we have the Nissan 350Z, and quite evidently a model carried over from its original appearance, and it shows very, very badly. Just looking at this car in Forza Vista is a terrible mashup of flat textures and squared circles. Keep this shape in mind, you're going to see it a lot. Just look at those charming headlights. Interior wise, it stays awful. And of course, no engine bay and no trunk. As expected with these terrible old models, the lights are flat, the reflections are just generic ray tracing reflections, and I've seen more detail on a box of cigarettes than these brake calipers. And to make things worse, the newer Rocket Bunny body kit that was added with Horizon 3 really clashes with the detailing of the older model to the point where you notice the color shift. To a point where when you notice the color shift between the body panels and the new body kit, you can't unsee it. This is more of a general sweeping statement towards all of the 60s to 70s cars in this game, so we'll include it as the one I have attachment to. As expected, no opening bonnet or trunk. Not surprising. What is surprising though is the detail on the wheel hub emblems. You can even see the engraved lines. Unfortunately, that detail cannot be said for the rest of the car. I mean, you can even see the points in the key slot where they cut it into a circle. I did tell you were going to be seeing these a lot. On the interior, everything lacks proper shading, just looking like a Roblox model with no proper lighting engine. And of course, fake circles. Even the headlights on this poor thing are fake circle. Moving on. Honestly, are you really surprised anymore? No opening hood, flat lights, these bloody fake circles. No interior shading, and some truly awful alpha channels. While these rear tail lights do show some potential, it will never, of course, compare to GT7's 205 or the real life one. And if you were about to go into the comments and type out about how bad GT7's model is, I lied to you. This is the 205 from Forza Motorsport 5, and this is the 205 from GT7. You might look at this and think this has got to be as bad as it gets, right? Right? A lot of people like to argue about what car is the worst model currently in Forza. Some say it's the S15 Silvia, some say it's the Ferrari 575, and some even say it's the NC Miata, but I disagree because I think it's the E36 M3. This car goes to new lows of showing how terrible, unrealistic, and under-detailed a model can be while still being sold in a AAA game. There are car mods for games like GTA or BeamNG that have better detailing than this, and this is the car in a game that's been downloaded over 50 million times. The headlights are about as deep as a can of Spam, the grille is a portal to the void, and the side skirts have developed beta channels instead. And all the logos on this car have about a similar level of quality to any model from Yandere Simulator. I'm glad to know whoever put these M3 logos on these wheels has certainly been fired a long time ago, or perhaps more recently, but unfortunately their lack of effort lives on in this model's continued existence. I'm sorry Microsoft, but you can't AI upscale a model for eternity, because your sins have caught up to you and someone should really take Playground Games out back and show them how to make a circle. Or, shade their interiors. This is pathetic. But before we go on, I just want to also flash through a myriad of cars that have issues and need new models, but I don't want to give a full demonstration of because they usually don't have enough issues to qualify for a detailed review like that. The Lambo Murcielago SV has very flat headlights compared to the real car. This issue is not present in the GT40 Mark II has a squished front end, causing the car to bulge up around the fenders. The Skyline R34 has an insanely short front end, making the car look squished. The Mitsubishi FTO has so much sag on its front end that it makes the car look depressed. This is atypical for cars ported from Motorsport 1. The Chevelle SS is in general completely wrong. Please compare to GT7's Chevelle. The Celica T230 suffers from misshapen taillights among other issues. The Ferrari F355 is built like a Minecraft car, also horribly inaccurate. The Honda NSX's Rocket Bunny body kit does not shorten the car like real life. Even Need for Speed got this right. The Porsche 996 911's front end drops off way too quickly, causing the car to be angled wrong. Additionally, the rear of the car is almost completely flat like a Supra instead of rounding off like the 996 does. The GD-WRX has too big of a front end and deformed headlights. Additionally, while the car is right-hand drive and has side indicators, indicating that it's supposed to be a JDM model Impreza, it still has USDM headlights. Here's the JDM version in case you were wondering. And finally, the Mark IV Supra is an all-around mess. It has too high of a front bumper, which in turn causes a flat bonnet. The car is squished in headlights and the fenders from the Fast and the Furious Supra from Horizon 2. The front grille is additionally too small, the third brake light is too big, the rear taillights are improperly shaped, the rear bumper is too flat, the spoiler is too flat, the Supra badge is misaligned, and best of all, the car's rear windshield wiper is placed on the left side, which would indicate a left-hand drive Supra. This is notably not a left-hand drive Supra. There certainly comes a time when racing devs have to look at their game and realize that there needs to be a refresh. It's time to start up again, it's a new day, and completely redo their models, completely wiping the slate clean with brand new modern models that accurately represent the car. Need for Speed did this, Gran Turismo did this, Assetto Corsa is currently doing this with Evo. Even the Crew is doing this to some extent. Forza, however, remains stubborn, insisting that you can continue using 20-year-old models, upskilling them with AI and paint polishing, and not needing to put any more effort into them beyond renewing their licenses, because that's just the Microsoft way. But that's just old cars. There's loads of those to go around, like some I didn't even mention, like the ACR Viper, the Impreza WRX. Just because you open the hood now doesn't hide the fact that I can easily tell these are Xbox 360 models. Yes, I like my car with pentagon lights. There's even the fact that a lot of older car models in Forza are horribly inaccurate, like the Vauxhall Monaro, Ford Focus, or the S13 Silvia. These cars in particular are quite insulting because last year Playground Games claimed they were working on remaking these models into being more accurate. These supposed new models, by the way, have yet to surface, unless Playground was referring to, oh, now you can open the hood, which I remind you is not fixing a model. The 22B knows this especially. I didn't even bring up how grills are slowly becoming less a view into the engine bay and appear over the dark abyss. Here's the Pagani Zonda Cinque, a mainstay classic in Forza. From Horizon 1 to 3, and then to now, its grille on the rear engine has slowly transformed from being near transparent to completely opaque. And although it did make a return in Motorsport 8, if you pay attention to the car, unlike Playground Games did, you'll notice that these are actually the exhaust pipes from the Wyra. Here are the two cars in-game, by the way, and just for the insult, here's the ones from Need for Speed Hot Pursuit and Motorsport 4. But I did say there were some new car models like this, and it's about time we talk about those. This is the Porsche 718 Cayman. A relatively new arrival to Forza starting in Horizon 4, it's a model that's only a couple of years old, and yet it acts as if it's older than it is, which is a shame, because this is actually a nice looking model if these issues were creased out. For one, no opening hood or trunk. Some might bring up the Alpha 4C as a car that can't open its trunk, except the 718 can. And the trunk too. This was something that could be done in Horizon 4. And for 2, instead of actually modeling the car's lug nuts, they instead opted for generic lug nuts and then plastered on a logo of the actual lug nuts on. The issue with this, aside from it being really lazy, is that it's been broken for a long time in Horizon 5 and all the decals are stuck at a default angle. Listen guys, fix these issues and you've got a pretty alright model in your hands. This will apply for some of the other cars on here, but not all. Comparative to some others on this list, this one really isn't that bad. Yes, the hood and trunk don't open despite real life one having opening bits. Yes, the wheels are under detailed, and yes, its sprites are underdone and feel flat, but it's mostly a good model, just needs some touch-up work. However, the same cannot be said for this one. From a distance, the LC500 looks like a fine model, which is mostly helped by the fact that the LC500 is one of the most beautiful cars of the 21st century, and this is 100% factual and you will not change my mind. However, once you get closer to this model, it becomes blatantly clear the lazy factor has struck once more. While you can open the hood, your view is blocked by Forza deciding to keep the Lexus engine cover. This is a sin, because while you might have a very detailed engine cover, you're hiding the 5-liter V8 under the slab of plastic and engine cover. For shame. But realistically, judging by the resolution of the visible bits on the chassis and the engine wires, the main block wouldn't be much better. The wheels, once again, strike with low resolution lug nuts, rims, and continuing on this weird trend I failed to mention so far where the brake rotors are scratched up, and not even high resolution scratches. The lights, as always, are as deep as a glass of water, and the interior has as much care to it as a Walmart birthday cake. If Forza Vista did not exist, this car would be passable, but with its inclusion, this is an instant rejection for any actual car enthusiast that's wanting to explore their beloved vehicles with love. But yet, even with all these issues, there's still one worse. The C30's addition of Horizon 5 marks not only the first appearance of the facelifted C30 to Forza, but also its first appearance in general since Forza Motorsport 4. A difference of 13 years should certainly indicate a major increase in quality. It's there in some parts. Once you really look closer at the car and understand its tiny details, the model falls apart. As expected from Forza models, the grille leads nowhere. No details underneath or even hopes of showing the intercooler. The fog lights are bland, and the taillights are so comically flat you'd think they were just warped JPEGs. On the interior, it still mostly holds together but falls apart with the tiny details. Why does the logo look so unpolished? Why do the AC controls not have their little nubs yet other cars by Volvo do? Why does the dashboard yet again have no shading in it? And for some reason, the lettering on the speedometers are much lower resolution than the digital screens. Truly a Forzathon moment. Yes, this is a model introduced with Horizon 4, and yet it looks perfectly out of the Xbox 360 era. Did they even try? These wheels are the lowest detail I've possibly seen yet, and those headlights. Those headlights! They've designed these headlights like they're made out of LEDs, which are very much not the case for a 1980s car. In this interior, did you even try with that wood texture? That is abysmal. I've seen more effort in Roblox models. This is, without a doubt, the absolute worst I have seen a new model appear in Forza. They have designed this car for a generation that could only dream of having a gigabyte of RAM in an era where ray tracing is the norm on $500 consoles, and where there are more fake cores on the CPU than real ones. Now this is also one I wanted to put in but didn't really have a good way to, so here you go. Yes, that is a real picture of one of the cars in Forza Horizon 5 from launch to at least a few months ago. In particular, the Mercedes-AMG X-Class. Here's what the car looked like in Horizon 4, by the way, and then Horizon 5. It's at this point that you would reasonably ask, why is the quality so inconsistent on these models? Does Playground Games not have any quality control? Why do these models keep slipping in alongside better ones? Well, the answer is that Playground does not indeed have any quality control of their models, and that's because they don't actually make their car models anymore. They outsource them. Because this is a Microsoft studio. Previously, Playground Games sourced their model from a studio called Glass Egg, but after the release of Horizon 5 and during the development of Motorsport 8, they announced they were switching to a different studio called Pixel Mafia. Does this really matter? Not really, since the quality of these studios really hasn't differed, so it leads me to wonder what was the cause. Regardless, going on to Glass Egg's website shows them taking credit for work in quite a number of games, particularly racing ones, but the ones that matter to us are the appearance of Forza Horizon 3 and 4, alongside Motorsport 6 and 7, giving us the general indication that Horizon 2 is likely the point where Playground stopped making their own models, instead joined in the Microsoft club of outsource and accept if it's good enough. Now, this kind of mindset could have worked if Gran Turismo kept going down the path of GT6 and also reusing ancient models, but unfortunately for Playground, they did not. And with GT Sport and GT7, their models keep getting better and better. Oh hey, we finally came back around to what I said I was going to talk about earlier. The insane quality difference between GT7 and Forza. This is what happens when you scan your cars, not model them. When you have actual car enthusiasts with varying tastes develop your game, not just a bunch of 9-to-5ers who have the car taste of TikTok supercar kitties. Sure, you can make the fair excuse that most people who play Horizon 5 will not care about these minute details, which is unfortunately true. But when it comes to a fairground like Forza Motorsport, having these stark differences in quality care or the ability to examine your car is an absolute loss. Does Forza let you open the hood or trunk? Sure, but it's not always going to be there, as I mentioned and have displayed. If GT were to suddenly update to allow the same thing, it would have been applied to all their cars, with a library size starting to rival Forza. It's only a matter of put this game on PC before Forza has serious trouble in the waters. I know there will definitely be some pushback against my criticism of these model issues. Perhaps along the lines of, why are you criticizing such little things? Or, it's not a serious game, it doesn't need to be that in depth. But it's not about the genre or the size of the issues. It's about how constant and repetitive these mistakes are. It's like the difference between shot with a gun and being stabbed with a needle 300 times. Sure, being shot with a gun is a one-time incident and maybe it can be forgiven, but when someone just keeps stabbing you with a needle over and over again, you really start to focus on it more and more to the point where you tell them to stop. It shows an excessive laziness at Playground Games and a refusal to put any elective effort into their games or care about them beyond what is merely required. And for that, shame to Forza. Speaking of new cars, let's talk about these new cars. Forza claims to have over 120 new cars added to Horizon 5 since release back in 2021. Not including DLC or expansions, amounting to about 30 new cars per year on average. While this isn't a major amount, it certainly is a notable amount of content. Once you delve deeper into the variety, you'll see how much this number is a stretch. Let's delve in. 9 are extreme E-cars, which are all reskins of the same off-roader. 7 are racing versions of existing cars, which are all reskins / model swaps. 5 are versions of the Porsche 911, which are all nearly the exact same car. Nissan Z Nismo is an obvious model reuse of the 400Z. Subaru BRZ and GR86 are naturally the Subaru BRZ and GR86. I should not have to explain this if you've watched this far. Corvette E-Ray and Z06 are model changes of the default C6. Durango Hellcat is a model reuse of the Durango SRT. The Mustang Dark Horse is a model swap of the S650. Hot Wheels, the Formula Drift and drag racing cars are obvious model changes. I should not have to explain the Mini Cooper Forza edition. Nissan GTR Nismo is a model reuse of the R35 facelift. The Cadillac CT5 and CT4 are the same car, just slightly shrunken. Rivian R1S and R1T are, in the most literal sense, the same car. Challenger Superstock is a model swap of the Hellcat / Demon. Rimac Nevera is a model reuse of the C2. For God's sake, just look at it. The Huracan Sterrato and STL are model swaps of previous versions of the Huracan. The Mazda MX-5 RF is a folding convertible of the MX-5, which is already a convertible in the game. And finally, the most lazy of them all, Playground finally listened to fans demanding the addition of the second generation Soarer and finally added it. In the form of the third generation Soarer, which is just a rebadged SC300 and called it a day. I'd like to add on the Steam News article announcing this car's addition to Horizon 5, alongside other recycled car models, they accidentally claimed that the Soarer, quote, delivers power to all 4 wheels. Soarers were never all-wheel drive throughout their entire production cycle, and although they do have 4-wheel steering, this is certainly not how one would describe it, and I'm led to believe this isn't what they're referring to either. With this long and decisive list, our new car number whittles down from just 120 to 67 cars, almost cut in half. Now, releasing 67 cars after release for free is still quite a notable amount, but releasing roughly 23 unique and new cars every year for the past 3 years is not that much more or less than what GT7 or the Crew Motorfest have been doing. But you might ask, what about the cars that were added with Forza Horizon 5's launch? What about the Taycan or Bronco? How many did they truly add at launch? 15. That's it. Just 15 new cars added to the auto show after the 3-year wait between Horizon 4 and 5. I'm not even counting the cars that were added to the auto show in Horizon 5 that were previously unavailable in the auto show in Horizon 4, like the Hoonigan RS200 or the Rimac C2. These are all purely brand new cars to the game. And all the while, this game demands your attention constantly. Like a needy girlfriend, Forza demands your time every single week, sometimes daily, in order for you not to lose that one car that might never appear for years, or perhaps ever again. The amount of FOMO in Forza nowadays is insane. This was something I originally mentioned way back in my Horizon 3 retrospective, but didn't delve much into, but this is nuts. Let me give you a few examples. Additionally, the examples I'll be pointing out are not currently available in Backstage Pass or have been voted out. I'll get to that in a minute, but first, the Noble M600, added to Horizon 5 in March of 2022, car was last seen in July and last seen in Forza Horizon of May of 2023. The car failed to win a backstage vote in January 2025 and seems unlikely to come back for a while. As with the next ones I'm about to mention, good luck trying to snipe one because there'll never be one in the auction house that doesn't get immediately sniped. Mercedes-AMG GT Black Series, added to Forza Horizon 5 in June of 2023 and last seen in its premiere season, failed a backstage vote in November of 2024 and again in August of 2025. Aston Martin DBS, added to Horizon 5 in January 2024 and last seen in its premiere season. I'm just going to stop saying this because it's going to happen more. Failed a backstage vote in October of 2024. Mercedes-Benz SL65 AMG, added to Forza Horizon 5 in July of 2023, last seen in its second appearance in May of 2024, failed a backstage vote in March of 2025. There are loads more cars you can apply this to, but you get my point. There are a lot of cars in this game that Forza directly tells you, you better grind your ass off every week or you might miss out on that car. Forever. In GT7, this never happens because no car in GT7 is unobtainable beyond a certain date. Every limited time car release comes included with a confirmed date of when the car will be purchasable from the permanent dealership. In the Crew Motorfest, the main stage cars can be purchased after the fact by completing their challenges to reap the rewards as well as buy the car. In a Need for Speed Unbound, all previously DLC cars can easily and freely be bought by simply modding the game. Forza, like other Microsoft titles, has become a constant cycle of recycled FOMO content instead of actual player retention and focuses on user playtime instead. You can see this effect in Halo, Minecraft, and other similarly developed Microsoft games. And even after all that grind, you still might just end up with a car that no one has asked for. It only exists because of developer bias. If you've looked at Horizon 5's new cars, you might notice a trend. Supercars and off-roaders rule the majority, while enthusiast cars like the Lancer 3, Volvo C30, or Yaris GR are relegated to rare releases every few months. And yet, despite the existence of a publicly available Forza forum for people to vote for cars on, the majority of these submissions remain unfulfilled, after years of being on these forums with thousands of votes. Why does Donut Media, a group that many car enthusiasts consider to be the Disney Junior of car channels and is currently going through a complete crash out, get its own full story in the game while other groups like VinWiki or Motor Trend are left to the sidelines? Why do big groups like Red Bull or Hoonigan get mission series in the Crew Motorfest but are relegated to a few cars only in Forza? And why didn't they ever add the Grand Tour? And well, the answer to all of those is just that the devs have the taste of, you guessed it, supercar kids that love Bugatti and love Koenigsegg and love Jaguar and everything else that goes real fast with 16-cylinder or 12-cylinder or whatever engines and doesn't care for anything else. You're too slow, get a Hellcat, loser. But it could also be the money behind it. Sure, Donut Media has its own event in the Crew Motorfest as well, but so does Supercar Blondie and Hoonigan, and so many other car content creators like Black Panther get their own themed main stage events. Does Forza really care that little about interacting with their own community and just chase paychecks? Yes they do. And one of those examples of this paid promotion is just how many unwanted Chinese cars there are in this game. Sure, you might have your bouncing supercars and all that, but genuinely, no one really cares about these cars. And yet, they're so insanely prominent in Forza. Sure, you'll have the meme cars in this game that no one actually drives seriously, like the PLP50 or the Morgan 3-wheeler or the Barbie Corvette EV. Or even, if you dare, the Hummer. Did I mention how much Forza likes to take paychecks for advertising? But you'll still see people sometimes driving these cars in free roam because they're funny cars to mess around with. And yet, you'll never see the Chinese editions. Now, of course, it doesn't take a genius to figure out why people don't want these cars, and as a result, don't drive them. It's a known fact that Forza has statistics on what cars people drive the most, so it's surprising to me that despite how little turnout there seems to be for Chinese cars, they keep slipping one in every so often, while lesser-known Korean or Japanese cars still sit waiting for a moment in the limelight. Could this indicate a future of Forza based in China? Perhaps. Forza Horizon 4's final car was the Volt 05RR, directly added because the next game was in Mexico and used a Mexican car. But it wouldn't take a genius to realize that continuing down this path despite the community backlash would be a terribly and poorly received idea. And I hope that if Playground has any brain power left, they won't. One of the most important parts of a racing game is the sound, as it is with cars. The sound is everything. You can have the prettiest car in the world, but if it sounds like a lawnmower running on diesel, people won't like it. Most of car culture's favorite racing games are often known for their engine sounds, and some are even defined by it, like the BMW M3 GTR, the Pagani Zonda Cinque, or the Porsche Carrera GT. But over the past few years, Forza's record with its engine sounds has been iffy. Everyone is quick to remember how bad Forza Horizon 4's car sounds were, and while I do admit they were terrible, enough people aren't talking about how, despite constantly campaigns leading up to Horizon 5's release advertising it as fixing these sounds are still far behind what Horizon used to be. Let's give a few examples. As you can see, while the Crew Motorfest, GT7, and Need for Speed keep a similar idea for their in-game sounds, being off here or there, Forza is instead miles away with some of their sounds. You might ask yourselves, why are they so bad? And the answer is, I don't really know. I don't know why Playground goes out of their way to make these terrible engine sounds. What I can suggest is the reason why it's so bad is because of how Playground records them. When it comes to a typical game studio recording their engine sounds, they usually use a very similar setup to each other, mounting the car in particular on a dyno and revving it at various speeds to capture the different RPMs. These sounds are later mixed by an audio engine to make the car sounds in-game, but that's out of my field of knowledge. What is important though is the recording method. For Gran Turismo 7, the cars were recorded in various dyno garages and environments around the world to properly capture the cars and their noises in appropriate and realistic environments. For recording engine audio specifically, a setup of 8 to 10 microphones is used to record the exhaust pipes, with each microphone tuned to capture a specific character of the exhaust. Additionally, an extra group of microphones is used to capture the internal audio of the vehicle, as well as an extra pair in case that the road noise or random car noises need to be recorded. As you can tell, there is an extreme load of care that goes into this process. Meanwhile, over at Forza, they record the Jaguar XJ220 with just 4 microphones blocked by the bumper plastic because they need to be strapped to the car. They need to be strapped by the car because they can only record in open environments. If you can't realize why this is bad, let me explain. Recording your car sounds only in an open environment is bad because of instead of the audio properly echoing and amplifying itself to give it more depth, it instead is absorbed by the natural world. This is why some sounds in Forza sound particularly muffled, like the McLaren Senna. Additionally, you'll be taking in the sound of nature around you and all the road noise that comes with it. Editing this noise out means that you're also deleting some parts of the engine audio and thus making it less dense. I just want you to look at this. Look at how they recorded this Golf and tell me that these two studios share the same level of care for their video games. They don't. And before I move on from this segment, I want to talk about one more thing, which is sound reuse. In car games, unless the drivetrain is an exact one-to-one copy, reusing engine sounds is a big no-no for most video game makers. Notice how I said most, because that's where we come into the Lamborghini V12. What you've just heard is the same sound applied across 6 different cars of different eras of Lamborghini, despite having engines that should sound nothing alike. Instead, Playground has gone with the normie mentality of because it's the same displacement and pistons, it must be the same, and slightly pitch shifted them to make it less obvious. You might be quick to bring up how Need for Speed did this back in the late 2000s, but the difference was that was 15 years ago, an era where you constantly needed to optimize data use on your disks. This is 2023, where data limits no longer matter because you can sell people a 300GB game and tell them that it's their issue. While other devs that used to do this have atoned for their mistakes and moved on because of advances in the industry, Forza stays behind, repeating the same lazy corner cutting time and time again. But hey, let's talk about caring for your cars, and more specifically, customization. Customization is a major part of designing a car game, whether it's a sim racer or arcade or whatever this is. Customization is a major part of designing a racing game. Now, while I don't think there will be a major game for a while that will challenge the Need for Speed's reign in customization, you can still aim to land among the stars. This is what Gran Turismo has done, and while it doesn't have the extensive customization of Need for Speed, it still has over 250 body kits available for its cars in different classes, as well as having a variable selection of custom parts for your cars, allowing you to either add a handful of licensed or store brand parts, such as spoilers or diffusers. Additionally, a vinyl system that allows you to upload your own images onto GT's website to use in-game on your own car is also present. The Crew Motorfest has a bit of customization, and while it's got a much more contrived delivery system, it still gets the job done and to some degree better than Forza or even Gran Turismo. Forza, meanwhile, is absolutely horrific. Even after Horizon 5's body kit update, the game still only boasts about 120 body kits in total. Has over 950 cars. That 120 body kits means that only 10% of their library can have body kits. Meanwhile, GT7 has over 90% of their library able to have a body kit at any time. In GT7, if you want to, you can remove the spoiler on any car. In Forza, this does not exist except on a few select racing cars. If Playground's issue with customization is that getting licenses is slow, then they should focus on making more store-branded wide bodies like GT7 has. Alas, they unfortunately have. While the total of body kits in-game comes out to 120, the Forza-made wide bodies takes up 40 slots of that number, otherwise known as the grand majority, ahead of Liberty Walk and Rocket Bunny. You might argue that I am defeating my own point by bringing this up, however the second part to this point is they lack subtlety. With GT7's body kits, most of them are subtle, but you also have the option of extreme body kits, some that are rice and some that are just nice. With Forza, there is no subtlety, because the devs are TikTok users. All of Forza's wide body kits consist of 2 styles. This one with horribly tacked on fender flares, and this one with even bigger tacked on fender flares. That's it. No bumper or diffuser redesigns unless you're lucky, and no major car overhauls. Nothing. It is now in this segment of the video that I will talk about Forza Aero. I don't think this even needs an introduction as to why Forza Aero sucks. This thing was outdated even when it got added with Motorsport 5, and it was clapped by GT7's customizable wing even when it premiered, and still easily gets beaten today. In GT7, not only can you change the height of the wing, you can also change the end plates or just remove it altogether. In Forza, it's a one-fits-all solution, which would work if it wasn't this riced-out Temu garbage. If there was 2 or 3 options for Forza Aero on each car, that would be probably fine, but a one-and-done just doesn't cut it anymore. And while the Crew Motorfest customization isn't available for all cars, they still will provide a much larger supply of wings or spoilers for their cars than Forza will. Also, before I move on to the next segment, I gotta slot this in because this fits absolutely nowhere else, and I want to say it. The rarity system in this game is stupid, and it's clearly a relic left over from when Microsoft wanted to design Forza like a battle royale. Only reason this system exists is to stop you from buying skills for what the game decides are lesser cars, and pushes you towards driving hypercars or race cars because that's what the majority of the legendary tiers are in this game. But now it's time to take one of those pins out of the wall and finally talk about the backstage system and the voting system. On the surface, this is a great idea. It future-proofs the game while making sure there is as little FOMO as possible because everything gets added to the backstage in the end. However, the introduction of voting ruins it all. For whatever reason, the devs have a tendency to do one of 2 paths with the backstage votes. The first pattern is what I call outright rigging, when they put a very desirable car that people want and then pair it with a car that the majority of players do not care about. This is most prominently displayed in this vote from Horizon 5 in Series 44, where you have the Hyundai i30N and the Volkswagen Safari, versus the Toyota Yaris and the Myers Monks. And while the i30 and the Thing are certainly their own unique devices and will have their fan bases, this was an absolute massacre. The second pattern is a lot more common, and it's been happening more and more. The developers put 2 groups of very similar vehicles against each other. For this example, a more recent vote in Horizon 5. On one side, you have a two-door speedster and a wooden wagon. On the other side, you have a two-door speedster and a wooden wagon. Or this vote. A supercar and a two-door coupe hatchback rivaling a supercar and a two-door coupe hatchback. Or how about one more? A Subaru GT86 and a two-door sports car versus a Toyota BRZ and a two-door sports car. Actually, all of these are two-door sports cars, but the important clarification here is two of them are two-seaters and the others are coupes. Do you not see the issue here? And it's not like they're flip-flopping between these patterns often. It feels a lot more often that pattern 2 is the one that's chosen, and having a stand out like the Yaris vote is a lot rarer and rarer. And this pattern certainly doesn't help with the underlying issue with Backstage that finds its roots from the auction house. The second-hand market in Forza sucks. It's no secret that the auction house in Forza games is often home to regular Forzathon cars being locked behind 20 million credit price tags, or get sniped instantly after being listed for 1 nanosecond. This is certainly an issue of its own, but how does this tie into Backstage? Well, it's simple. People who dominate the auction house mass vote using their network of sniping bots to vote for a certain car, and since this car has lost the grand majority of its players since launch, only about 100,000 or so players are actively voting, assuming that the large majority of players are indeed paying attention to the auction house. And also, because the game doesn't actually show the voting amounts after winning, you can be moderately justified to believe that the votes are being rigged. At least when it's not unbelievable. Or perhaps I'm just wrong about all this and people are stupid. I also just want to say as a cutaway from segment to segment how little effort Forza has put into adding country-specific cars when it comes to Horizon 5. With Horizon 2 you had the addition of new Fiats, Ferraris, and Lamborghinis, and generally new Italian cars. With Horizon 3, you had the expansion of Holden and HSV, as well as regionally special Fords and the Myers Monks to represent beach buggies. With Horizon 4, you had the Mors Minor, more cars from Aston Martin, Austin, McLaren, and Bentley, the return of Ascari, the James Bond DLC, and of course, the Rover SD1, the Top Gear Story, and the PLP 50. But with Horizon 5, Vol 05RR imported from Horizon 4, and a boring story questline about the Vocho. Please ignore the fact that they have, as always, not updated the model of the Beetle for Mexico and that is still using the European model. Oh, and also having every NPC talk in Spanglish because that totally isn't the most annoying thing in the world and hated by the people it's trying to pander to. The only things that Forza adds to celebrate Mexico in reality is the addition of the Nissan Suru, added 2 years after launch. And no, I don't care that there is a Forzathon series themed after Mexican holidays. I do not care. We don't get anything even poking into Mexico's extensive car histories or special editions like the Mistretta MXT or the Inferno Automobilia Inferno. How embarrassing is it that something like Asphalt 9 has more specially designed Mexican vehicles in it than a game directly based in Mexico? Mexican car culture goes much further beyond what Forza likes to imply, strictly being only Vochos. Why don't you talk about Mexico's lowrider culture, which gained relevance because of Mexico? But no, too much effort. Let's just reuse the same Volkswagen model we've been using for over a decade now. But now we have arrived at our next segment, which is that Forza is holding back cars from old games for no good reason at all. Now, this isn't a new thing, they've been doing this for years, but it's still worth bringing up because it's still a prominent issue. You might ask yourself, why does Forza do this? Is it because of licensing issues like what happened with Stellantis? Well, rarely. The Mercedes SLR could perhaps fall into this category, as it hasn't appeared in Forza since Horizon 2 and has no sign of returning. Now, this could just be Forza. While Forza lacks the SLR, the Crew Motorfest and GT7 have it perfectly fine, and they've both held the license for a substantial amount of time. You could certainly gather the reasoning from this point that McLaren and Mercedes only allow the car to be licensed to certain people for an amount of time, but there really isn't any proof about this, and most people assume that it's just the two companies fighting with each other about who they want to license it to. Or perhaps, more likely, it's that Playground Games doesn't view the car as worth it anymore because it isn't very prominent in the public conscience and is only really still enjoyed by enthusiasts, whichever one you want to believe. But the main point is that the majority of cars are held out by Playground, and the overwhelming reason for them is to be added later for FOMO. Let's talk about some. The Ascari KZ1R, British supercar brought back from the dead in Horizon 4 and then missing in Horizon 5, added back into Series 6 as a Forzathon series reward. The Pontiac GTO Judge, American muscle that appeared in almost every single Forza game before as an auto show car, re-added to 5 in Series 27 as a seasonal reward. Subaru 22B, Japanese rally car that appeared in every single Forza game prior in the auto show and as a barn find in Horizon 4, re-added to Horizon 5 in Series 1 as a seasonal reward. And finally, the Ferrari 599 GTO, Italian sports car that appeared in multiple Horizon games prior and usually as an auto show car, other time as a reward for achievements, re-added in her Series 2 as a seasonal reward. There are of course loads more, however you get my point. While some of these have been added to Horizon backstage, a large part of them are still missing, especially the incredibly desired DMC DeLorean. This car has only ever appeared twice in Horizon 5, first when the game launched as the second seasonal reward car for Series 1, and then again 3 years later in Series 34 in 2024. And then when it was put up into a backstage vote, they pulled the rigging strategy by putting it against a Hyundai Envision. And lose that vote, it did. Now you might be wondering, why am I mentioning the DeLorean? Sure, it's a rarity, despite everything is a good mention, but why is it here? That's because, despite what Forza likes to talk a lot of, the DeLorean is not a new car. In fact, it finds its roots all the way back to Motorsport 3. The inconsistencies in model details show that this is the exact same model from way back then. Let's play a bit of a scenario. Playground Games needs an iconic car to sell their brand new game with as a seasonal reward. They look around, and they see DeLorean. They don't care how old it is, they'll just touch it up, give it some new shine. Don't remaster it at all, just put the same model in. Slap a $20 million price tag on it when it hits the auction house and never touch it again. And it's not even previously appearing cars that are missing. New cars are still missing years after release appearances in other games. For a game studio seemingly enthralled by the fastest hypercars on the market, they sure do have a tendency to just not add cars they don't care for, or even enthusiast vehicles. Even years after release, cars like the Pagani Utopia, Maserati MC20, McLaren Elva, Bugatti Voiture Noir, or the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile have failed to appear in Forza or show any chance of showing an appearance, even when the forums lead ahead in thousands of votes. But then again, there are so many leading votes on here that Playground Games is likely ignoring, so what makes a few more? This one isn't a new practice, but it's one that needs addressing because it's really dumb and it makes no sense in an age where we aren't limited to disc size anymore. And it's when Playground gatekeeps cars from Forza Motorsport out of Horizon for no reason at all. I think it's safe to say at this point that there is absolutely no limits for what can and cannot be added to Horizon, and we still have plenty of cases where perfectly good cars are being held back from release. Just because. The Alfa Romeo Giulietta is one that appears in Motorsport 8 and has appeared in every single one since 4. And despite its brief appearance with Horizon 2, it hasn't been seen in Horizon since. Additionally, the Alpine GT appeared in Horizon 3 but couldn't make a new Horizon appearance after Motorsport 7 or 8. If you're a fan of the 4th generation Camaro, well, bad luck for you, because while Motorsport 8 gets the 35th anniversary edition all to itself, Horizon gets absolutely nothing. Or how about you like the final generation Pontiac Firebird? Well, have fun, chumps, because just like its Camaro brother, it's never had a Horizon appearance, and doesn't seem like it ever will. Or what about the Renault Clio V6, the car that seemingly can only appear in even-numbered Horizon games, and yet it's in every single Motorsport game? Or most glaringly, the Infiniti G35, that reappeared right after a several-year disappearance with Motorsport 7 or 8, but has yet to appear in Horizon. You might think that asking for iconic enthusiast vehicles might be the bare minimum, but don't you go asking for too much. Motorsport's gotta eat too. I swear, this will be the last time I complain about Forza not having old cars, but in this case, it's them removing older trims of cars. Forza's developers for a long time have held a fascination with only having the latest and greatest of cars and removing older trims at random. Even though we no longer suffer from size constraints, especially from a game as clogged as this. What's that? You like the 5th generation Camaro SS and not the facelifted ZL1? Or what about the AMC Pacer, sir, that just hasn't existed since Horizon 3 or Motorsport 7? Or what about the Zonda C12 instead of the Cinque, the Murcielago LP640 instead of the SB, the F355 Challenge instead of the Berlinetta? Too bad, Forza has deemed. You must now drive these newer versions of the cars, even if some of them are inherently worse versions. Latest and greatest, don't you know? So my question closing out this segment is, if Forza isn't going to try for car variety, customization, fun, or car accuracy, then what is it trying to do? What is its special deal? That it's an open world sandbox racing game? You are no longer unique, Forza. You aren't the only game that does that, and you have very serious competition that you do not seem to care about. Guess what? It's going to get you. If you play Horizon 5 on Steam, particularly since launch, you might have noticed a significant drop in performance out of nowhere, and you're not crazy. The game has seen substantially worse performance in the time after release, and namely, in particular, for some reason, Update 5. Eons and eons ago, I used to run an RX 6600 XT as my main gaming rig. In Horizon 5 at ultra settings, I could easily max out my monitor refresh rate at 144Hz, and yet today, running those exact same settings on the same card, I struggle to hold 70 FPS at the same settings. Going online, you'll see slews of these same kinds of performance losses, whether sudden or across the years. As this game gets more and more bloated and unoptimized, Playground has seemingly joined the infamous AAA trend of Just buy a better computer, bro. As demonstrated not just with Horizon 5's terrible performance, but as well as that of Motorsport 8. Just look at the steep incline in performance requirements between the two, whereas Horizon's recommended just enters Ryzen with the 1000 series, and doesn't even think about using RTX cards. Motorsport turns around, takes those same recommended specs to use as minimum. All on the same engine and looking arguably worse. And while Forza Tech saw considerable upgrades from Motorsport 8, those upgrades were all purely cosmetic and no way focused on making the engine more usable, instead focusing on things like generative cloud system, real-time ray tracing on the track, or a more extensively detailed damage system. It's not even like the damage model in Forza has been good in over 10 years since Horizon 1 or 2, so why does it even matter to you anymore? Man, I wonder if there's another Xbox game developed for the launch of the series consoles that was pushed back a year after it was originally supposed to release, that is compared very negatively to its predecessors and has continually seen disappointing updates and built off of a poorly upgraded and optimized engine that was later revealed to have suffered greatly from a development process involving contract workers? Nah, surely that doesn't exist. After all, we have quality standards nowadays. What I've brought to attention so far is that Playground Games has developed a pattern across the past few years of completely ignoring player input and demand, instead adding just whatever they feel like or whatever requires the least amount of effort from them. There are loads more issues with this game franchise that I haven't even brought up, like how the car PI system is completely imbalanced, leading to situations that eventually got the Jaguar I-Pace and Razer Tachyon banned from online play. I could have brought up the elephant in the room when talking about online racing, the leaderboards. There are literally millions of cheated times and records on these boards, and this has existed for years and years. But instead of actually banning the cheaters or moderating their boards, Playground just wiped a bunch of the top scores off the boards, catching some legit times in the crossfires, and called it a day. Keep in mind, this was about 2 years ago, and things already immediately went right back to how they were before. And yet, in spite of all this laziness and ignorance, Playground has continued to just add features that no one wants. Remember how I said at the start of the video that the Eliminator was a major design philosophy for the map? Well, it still exists, and of course, and it's still a prominent part of the game. Hell, if you want to get every achievement, you must win at least one game of the Eliminator. Horizon Arcade is another mode that was completely dead on arrival, being a failure of a rebrand of Forzathon Live from Horizon 4, a feature which still, even in Horizon 4's dying days, draws in quite a bit of players each time. All the while, I still have yet to see a single person across all my years join into Horizon Arcade. And then of course we come to the latest, and what I would argue worst, update. On April 24th, 2025, Playground announced the next update to Horizon 5, Horizon Realms. Proposed as a way to replay old versions of the Forzathon Evolving World locations, Horizon Realms was massively hyped up by Playground as being a revitalization of Horizon 5. It even got a video a week before release explaining everything about the update. So what actually was Horizon Realms? Well, it's about as underwhelming and direct to the point as you can get. Here you have the menu for Realms. Despite the name and what you would assume to be correlation to Minecraft Realms, this mode is strictly single player. Here you can access each of the 12 Evolving World showcases in 2 modes, Free Roam and Skill Mode. Free Roam is exactly what you think it is, just drive around the area in particular and do nothing major. In Skill Mode, it's just getting as much skill points as you can in 5 minutes. That's it. That's the whole update. And if you thought this was the absolute worst of Playground, oh boy, we haven't even talked about the DLC. As it stands currently, there are 12 extra DLC car packs for Horizon 5 that do not come included with Premium Edition. Even with the bundle price reduction of buying them all together with the Ultimate Car Pack collection, if you want absolutely everything that comes with Forza Horizon 5, you will be paying $150 for a game that is half-cooked and will demand more of your money at every single turn. Oh yeah, and also car voucher microtransactions, can't forget those. Now, of course, it would be really easy to make a counter argument to this by bringing up how Forza Horizon 3 was the exact same way. A game that had its expansion pass and Hoonigan car packs separate from the Ultimate Edition. However, I retaliate with the argument that Horizon 3's expansions were both unique and well received, on top of being very good expansions. Horizon 5 expansions are just a rehash of expansions that were much better done in their original vision and not being very diverse in biomes compared to the base game. Just overall disappointments, especially with Rally Adventure. Hoonigan Car Pack, meanwhile, brought 7 brand new Hoonigan vehicles along with achievements and new stuff to do in game, all for cheaper than the majority of these car packs are with less cars. And even with all this stuff, Horizon 3 Complete was still cheaper than Horizon 5's total collection. And with Xbox Game Showcase 2025 coming and going, and the literal only mention of a new Forza game being one next year, hope seems bleak with the future of Forza. The mass firings at Playground Games in Turn 10 and the release of Horizon Realms, Playground Games has announced that the updates for Horizon 5 will be slowing down, and seeing as it's been 3 months since then, it seems very bleak. In other words, Forza now has slower update cycle than GT7, which should not be something I have to say. Sure, Horizon 4 did a very similar thing of repeating playlists, but the difference is that we were only 5 months out from the release of Horizon 5, not an entire year out from even a trailer. For a lot of people, this wait is perhaps an indication of a bad game in the making, especially after how long we went without a new Motorsport game just to be met with the disaster that was Motorsport 8. Waiting 5 years for maybe a new Horizon game seems concerning. If you've watched to the end, thank you so much for giving me your time. Hopefully, this video has made you and other viewers more aware of some of the issues plaguing this franchise, and ones that desperately need to be addressed should Forza want to continue staying in the spotlight into the future. And while I have gone out of my way to paint a very bleak and corporate picture of the ongoings at Playground Games, I am sure that there are still people out there that care about these games and want the best for them. Unfortunately, those creative voices are often drowned out by Microsoft cost-cutting and Playground Games' lack of effort in general. Perhaps someday we'll see this behavior turn around, and we'll finally get a true successor to Horizon 1, 2, and 3. But until then, we can only dream that for once Playground does something. Until then, my name is Mirza, and thank you so much for watching.